Welcome again to our meditation series. This is the second of 4. We're looking at the practices of meditation and how they can enhance our lives, enhance our being, our potential, everything that we choose to manifest in the world, in this being that we are in this life. The Indian yogic traditions tell us that fears and doubts and suffering come from our own ignorance of who we are in reality, what we are in reality. This pure beingness that you hear a lot about in yoga, pure being, this divinity, this oneness. So what we use in order to get to those places, and if you don't have a meditation practice, or even if you do, or if you're a teacher, what we use often is this practice of dharana. Dharana means a technique, basically. And we use these techniques to allow the mind to focus and to find a place to rest so the mind can rest while you're sitting there. Because when you're sitting, what arises is everything that's in your head and body and mind and experience and conditioning. So we're going to use today a couple of techniques that from our first practice will now become very similar and yet just a little bit more subtle. So our first as always is taking a seat. If you've already done your practice today, physical practice, your body should be comfortable. We're not going to do any asana postures before we sit today because we've already done something. But you're welcome to do a down dog at home, a couple of lunges, or even some sitting pose stretches. So prepare your hips and your whole body to sit up tall. So the way we're going to take our seat is quite important so that your body can be comfortable and sit for a longer period of time. I'm sitting on a blanket. And I've asked all the students to sit on a blanket as well. If you'll notice when I sit, because my hips are a little tighter, my knees will tend to be higher than my hips. And the tendency will be that the pelvis will tip backwards because of lack of flexibility and just, you don't want to be sitting like this with a lot of tension. So sitting on a blanket allows you to exactly do that, which is to arrange the spine in a way that it can flow down and upwards at the same time. So you're always going to watch out that your seat is not turning into that. And even if it does, it's okay, because it's always, everything is okay, whatever's happening, as long as you're very present with it, okay? We're going to start off with, even this is a dharana, a technique, which is to create a prayer, an intention for the practice. It might be something that you say first thing in the morning, right before you go to bed, right before you practice a class. And perhaps it's something useful that you can use over and over again throughout your day, just as a way to remember to be very present with yourself. So let's take our seat and sit up tall. We can also use the mudra of the Yana Mudra, it's also called Chin Mudra, of the thumb and forefinger together. Many different traditions it's taught either palms up or left palm down, right palm up to you. This has to do a lot with the energies of either side of the body, and that's in another class. Okay. So please take your seat, take a mudra if you would like, and close your eyes gently. Turn your attention to your foundation as you root into the earth, to softening as you extend up, to expanding on your inhalations and releasing, letting go on your exhales. As you stay tuned into the rhythm of your breathing, the rhythm of your life force, our practices bring to us so much self-knowledge, knowledge about the self, not only knowledge about your individual self, your habits, your patterns, your present state, but to that highest part of you that our practice is about today, dropping into that space where we find that expansive place of freedom. So as you keep your eyes closed throughout the next pieces of meditation, I'd like you to perhaps repeat or just listen to. I open myself to experience freedom and peace. I open myself to be free of fear, anxiety, insecurity, smallness of thought, smallness of being. I open myself to experience that full, expansive state, that spacious light that is my nature. As you take more awareness now into the inner body, we'll pick up a few of the things that we did in our first class. Be aware of the muscular tensions in your body, where they are. Be aware of the distractions of your thoughts and mind. They might come in the form of images or words, attitudes, your habits, your patterns. You might be talking to yourself and not saying nice things to yourself. Whatever it is, every inhalation has the opportunity to release that, to expand that, to change that, to transform that. The power of really dropping into the Shakti, if you will, that word Shakti, or the power of life force, or this place of awareness of true being, pure being, divinity. That transforming power is what we want to really drop ourselves into, let ourselves connect to. Our first practice is going to be about watching your senses. It's said that there's 5 senses, but we always add in the mind. The thinking mind can be the 6th sense. So as you're sitting right now, be aware of your body touching the ground, where it touches the pillow. Feel with your physical body what you feel. You feel hot or cold. You feel your clothing touching your skin. You feel a shoulder or a back or an elbow or the side of your neck, whatever you feel. What you feel with your physical body. You can maybe even feel the thumb and forefinger touching each other in this mudra. Now take your attention very gently to your sense of sound. What do you hear? If you're watching this video, you're listening perhaps to the music. Or you can hear someone talking outside, or a child crying, or a car passing. Maybe you can hear your own thoughts. Notice now what you see through your closed eyes. The dark, black, white, colors moving, images. Now notice what you taste with your mouth. You probably taste your own saliva, your own mouth, what perhaps you had for breakfast or a coffee. And now notice your sense of smell. Sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes it's not, but notice that. And noticing all of your senses, you will also include for today the 6th sense of the mind. Notice what the mind's doing. It's thinking, or it's planning, or it's avoiding, or it's not liking, or it's doing what it usually does, being a monkey. Just notice that all your senses. And using this practice of pratyahara, which you'll find in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, is now take all of those senses and turn them inwards. Turn them inwards to sense your inner experience. It's not that we close off these senses and try not to feel anything, but it's that we turn the senses inwards to experience the flow of prana, the flow of energy, the flow of everything that's happening inside of you, and perhaps even still being aware of what's outside of you. So we're going to sit for about a minute, seeing if that's possible for your practice today. Take all of your senses and turn them inwards to experience yourself internally. If you're having a difficult time understanding or experiencing this, just keep moving through each sense and experience that. Let's just take about a minute in quiet with that awareness. Very gently open your eyes. We're going to switch our position and get into the next practice that we have for today. So you can either switch the cross of your legs or change position completely. If anybody would like to go into Virasana, so this is an external rotation, the position that we were in right now with the legs in cross legs. I'm actually going to take a Virasana pose because it's always nice to show that off. If you're sitting in Virasana, sit on a block for me. And we want, again, the pelvis to be elevated. I'm making a big arch in my lower back right now, as big as my back will let me. This is too much. So we're going to look for, again, whichever pose that you're in. The hips, pelvis tipping slightly forward. Connection into the earth. Spine rooting down, elongating. Shoulders gently back. Head gently back. You always want to watch out for this kind of movement of pushing the chest forward and squeezing the shoulder blades. That's too much, it's hard. So just gently expand as you breathe, and when you're ready, close your eyes gently, please. In a text called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, I think it's about the 14th century, 15th century, there's a practice which speaks of the 5 koshas, the 5 sheaths of the human being. We as an individual embodied human, it is said that we have these 5 coverings, 5 veils. And in our practices, what we're doing is we're moving through these veils to reach to the core and to create an integration from the inside out, the outside in. So our practice is going to be about that. So if you're already in your sitting position and you're listening to the words or the class behind me, you can just gently watch your breath in, flowing out, flowing in, flowing out. And I'm going to describe very gently as we go. Right now, the first kosha, or the first veil sheath, is called the Annamayya Kosha. Anna means food. It means the gross body. I want you to feel your physical gross body. Whichever pose you're in, feel what's touching the ground. Feel what you're sitting on. Feel the tip of your pelvis or the lack of tip of your pelvis. Feel the elongation or lack of elongation of your spine, the fullness of your rib cage. The tension in your shoulders, neck, or none, and let that soften. Feel all the way out from your shoulders to your fingertips, all the way to your crown of your head. And you're still, with every breath that you're taking, you're just moving your attention. We're still always self-sensing, scanning the body, scanning our experience. Am I moving back to a habit, one that doesn't serve me especially? Am I moving into an attitude? Am I traditionally tensing one spot of my body? So you're just really always self-sensing, but now we're doing it in this context. Feel your heart over on the left side of your body. Feel your lungs on either side of the heart. Your gross physical body made out of substance, matter, prana, energy. Your liver on the right. Your stomach on the left. Your kidneys in the back. Your bladder, the reproductive organs. Really aligning your whole physical body in your awareness. With your next breath, let that go. And move your attention now to the awareness of breath itself. Are you opening to the breath to receive it, or are you being stingy with it? Is your exhale full and deep, or are you holding on? You can feel it coming in and out of the nostrils, but can you feel it coming in and out of your fingertips, out of your toes, into the back of your head, into every organ even, letting the body, which is made of prana, just breathe, expanding itself. A little bit more each time, becoming free, more free. Not attached to a specific way of doing anything, a specific way of thinking. Let's move our attention to the Annamayya Kosha. Manas is the mind. The breath is the first evolute of consciousness, and so that the mind and the breath are intimately linked. And as you observe your mind right now, you might find it in your head, or you might find it in other parts of your body, your thinking body. Notice it. Be aware of it. As we did in our previous practices, you'll notice the way thoughts and patterns arise and conditioning. But in this case, just see, where do you find that Annamayya Kosha? The Kosha is the sheath, the Manas is the mind, and the Maya is the illusion. We're going to go into the next one is called the Annamayya Kosha, the body of the intuition, the body of the highest intuition. So where do you find that? Would you point to your head? Would you point to your gut? To your heart? See if you can sense, what is that Annamayya Kosha, that layer that is each of us, part of each of us? Where do you discover it? Where is it located? Is it just there? You can just imagine I'm talking about it, so you're thinking, well, she says it's there, it must be there. Or do you actually find it somewhere? Finally, moving into that innermost core, veil, covering, essence, is called the Anandamaya Kosha. Ananda means bliss, the body of bliss, which is said in all of our texts that bliss is who we are, bliss and wholeness and oneness. For a moment, as you free yourself from your own attitudes and conditioning, using techniques or not, can you find that deepest core of you? Is it located in your heart? Can you sit in your own heart for a moment, even if it's for a glance, a breath, to touch that moment when you're no longer an individual something, but you're kind of everything. Perhaps using this music to allow yourself to expand. We're going to sit for a moment with this awareness of these 5 coverings, whether you're experienced with them or not. To see if you can move through them. You might touch one or another. You might want to stay in just one. Let yourself be fluid in the awareness of drawing the senses to the deeper, most deeply innermost parts of yourself. Just a few minutes. As we sit for a few more moments, I'd like you to notice wherever your attention is, it's perfectly fine. You're watching your breath, you're watching yourself be uncomfortable, you're watching yourself. But I'd like you to notice that as you notice where awareness is, do you notice that awareness is inside of you? Or do you feel, or can you sense that awareness is actually holding you? And it is everything. It's holding this room. It's holding all the people in the room. It's holding your thoughts, your feelings. Can you sense that awareness is holding you? A container. And in that awareness, you find a moment of peace, a moment of freedom, a moment of grace. The freedom to know yourself deeply without judgment, and just being able to be present with yourself. Thank you for joining us for this segment of our meditation practice. Namaste.